Well, happy 4th of July, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're barbecuing. I hope you're beering. I hope you're fireworking. I hope you're doing all of those things. We can celebrate. We can celebrate what America means to us and what America can be on this birthday of our country. We can't allow Trump to take that away from us. We can identify how much he misaligns with our values, how right now we're failing in many ways, but it's our job out of our love for America to fix it. John Favreau posted happy 4th. I'm getting to a Putin story. Speaking of things that don't align with our values, but first, just to read this. America's founding belief is that everyone is created equal and everyone has the right to live freely. Patriotism, real patriotism, has always been the struggle to make that belief a reality in the face of humanity's darker impulse to deprive others of life and liberty because of who they are, where they come from, or what they believe. That's the fight. And we have to keep motivated about it. And I think today is one of those days to celebrate your love, the love that motivates wanting to fix these things and correct course. One of the things we need to correct course on is not having a president who allows dictators abroad to slap him around. Mediaite reports humiliating. Putin launches one of his worst attacks yet on Ukraine after speaking to Trump. And I just yesterday talked to Kaylin Robertson, who's a journalist, a new friend of the show on the ground in Ukraine. And I have videos that he sent to me of what these strikes felt and looked like there on the ground. We'll get to. But first, Russian President Vladimir Putin launched on Thursday night one of the largest attacks on Ukraine since the war began some 3 years ago, after speaking on the phone with President Donald Trump, who has repeatedly called for an immediate end. All the outlets do that. He really wants it to end. Yeah, well, he has to do the stuff to facilitate that. And I'll give you more updates today of the stuff he's doing that will make lasting peace even more in the distance. You have Jay in Kyiv posting this. Here's what Putin did immediately after getting off the phone with Trump. And that was unleashing this massive attack on Ukraine. And he's done this multiple times now, if you'll remember. He'll talk to Trump. Trump will say, "You gotta end it, Vlad." And he'll go on to do one of the largest attacks a couple times now, as if to say, "Yeah, you're my dog, my female dog," to self-censor. NBC News reports Hegseth halted weapons for Ukraine despite military analysis that the aid wouldn't jeopardize U.S. readiness. So when we were talking with Kaylin, why the heck has the Pentagon, under the direction of Trump and Hegseth, pulled back on defensive measures, defensive weapons for Ukraine in such a crucial time? Well, their justification was, well, we have to, we can't run out of stuff for us. And even according to their own analysis, that was a BS justification. The Defense Department held up a shipment of U.S. weapons for Ukraine this week over what officials said were concerns about its low stockpiles. But analysis by senior military officers found that the aid package would not jeopardize the American military's own ammunition supplies. Obviously, we knew that wasn't the genuine concern. Going back a little bit, right before the call, you had Putin leaving the stage. It seemed a little bit in mockery of Trump. He said, "Please don't be angry. I understand that we could talk more." But it's so awkward to make Trump wait. He could get offended. Thank you very much. Good luck. Thank you for your attention to this matter. While we continue through this, please do click the subscribe button if you appreciate this show. Then Trump, sweaty after his rally, speaking on this issue.
Я розмовлятиму з президентом Зеленським у п'ятницю.
All right, and it looks like I found a clip that was translated, not to the language that I was hoping for it to be. So let me, that's awkward. As Putin said, let me read the quote here. "I'll be talking to Zelenskyy on Friday, and I'm very disappointed with the conversation with Putin. I don't see him wanting to stop, and that's very bad. Really, I'm just telling it like it is. He doesn't seem like the kind of person who wants to end this war." Oh, really? Are you realizing that now? So what are you going to do? That's the question. What are you going to do about it? Because you're pulling back on sanctions, so you're putting less economic pressure on Putin, and you're pulling back on defensive weapons that protect Ukrainian lives in service of our geopolitical interests, as well as our humanitarian interests. Zelenskyy said that he spoke with Trump. He said, I had a very important and fruitful conversation with President Trump. I congratulated him and the entire American people on the U.S. Independence Day. We in Ukraine are grateful for all the support provided. It helps us protect lives, safeguard our freedom and independence. We have achieved a lot together with America, and we support all efforts to stop the killings and restore just, lasting, and dignified peace. A noble agreement for peace is needed. And, you know, one of the things that really struck me in my conversation yesterday with Kalen was the fact that he's hearing on the ground there's this real love, sort of in honor of July 4th. I think this conversation makes even more sense. There's real love for what America stands for, or should stand for, or ideally would stand for. And how that's what drives Putin so crazy, is that Ukraine wants the democracy, the freedom, the liberty, the rights, the dignity that comes with values that are more associated with us when we're at our best, and are very much not associated with Russia. Before reminding you of that part of our conversation, this is a video that Kalen sent me of him last night in Kyiv. Yeah, it is just nonstop, and how he worded it was that Putin, there's not a whole lot of strategy to this. Just these random strikes he keeps doing, and for years he's been accomplishing very little militarily. So it's not like this is gaining him a ton of ground. This is about crushing the morale of Ukrainians. And Kalen says it's not working. And that's a really compelling piece. Let me remind you of some of what Kayla and I talked about. So I wanted to bring up one of the things that you do that I don't see a ton of people do is you put a lot of, you obviously cover the carnage and the most important parts of this, which is the human toll and the authoritarian attempt to take over a different country. But something that you also put emphasis on is, despite all of that, you'll play videos of people dancing and joyful moments, speaking to the courage and resilience of Ukrainians. It's been a year since you've been living in Ukraine. What has impacted you most about that? Just seeing how everyday Ukrainians are dealing with the day-to-day, even as we're doing this interview, sirens going off. What has impacted you about that?
Well, it's very noisy. I think the actual speakers are right here in Maidan. I think the first time I saw this was when I went to a frontline city, and it was being shelled constantly. It was called Chasiv Yar. It's now basically under Russian occupation. And I saw a building that had just been blown out, and there were some of the elderly residents running out and cleaning up glass while there were still explosions going on. Sometimes there were street cleaners in Kherson that I would see wearing flak jackets, still sweeping up leaves and keeping the city clean, because Ukrainians have this, and this is what I try to capture, but it's really hard to describe unless you really see it as well, a genuine pride for their country, and just a pride for everything they do. This country is so patriotic to America. Here is where the Maidan Revolution happened in 2014. And this country looked west to freedom and to democracy, and they looked to the US as the beacon of that. Everybody here would agree with that. Everyone at that protest, and so many Ukrainians love what the United States stands for. So the United States, even strategically, has one of the best allies with resources, with minerals, and with passionate people. And to lose that would be to lose your standing on the world stage, to step down slightly. It's also humiliating for the United States to lose a country in the West, the largest country in Europe, to basically a rival to a dictatorship like Russia, to a communist dictatorship, which is the opposite of everything that America stands for. And it makes America look weak if Ukraine loses.
And then this morning, Kalen sent this video of the smoke in the skies from the night of strikes.
Seems a banger.
But don't feel hopeless. That was another thing that Kalen really emphasized. I understand the inclination, but the hope here is that public outcry, eventually at least gets Trump to follow through on what was promised. And Russia's really struggling. Right now, we've gotten warnings from the Kremlin about the economic nightmare that's coming for them. And that is what facilitates the necessary conditions to get this to stop, is when Putin, he just can't, because things are going so awry in Russia, that he'd be overthrown. And that it becomes so much pressure on him that he can't continue. But that relies on the United States leading and European countries leading and putting economic pressure on Russia. And they've, in many ways, not done enough. I'm talking about Europe. And Trump, obviously, now is running in the opposite direction. While Putin, and this is the whole Trump's such a big man, he's so strong, maybe we appeal to that. You are letting Putin turn you into his bitch? Really? He gets to get off of a call with you and do the opposite of what you just asked? You're going to let him do that to you? It's pitiful. Stand up for yourself. Share your thoughts in the comments.